It's clogged up.
Welcome to part 2 of the poor man's long arm mower. And in case anyone doesn't know, this is a Ford 8N. It's an early one, so 48, 49, something like that, with a Ford 501 sickle mower on the back and a Freeman loader on the front. And this is pretty much the perfect thing to be using for sickle bar mowing this bank. Well, at least mowing it. There's a lot of sand and stuff right here, and it's a lot of rocks in the bottom of the creek there, but there's a lot of stumps in where we're mowing right now, and the regular mower, you really can't mow with it right there. It drops off and it's really uneven, and you can get stuck, you can roll the tractor, and all sorts of other things. But the 8N seems to mow this pretty good with the sickle mower. I'm really glad we bought this thing. Could you imagine having to push mow this or mow it with a weed whacker or something? And I've kind of done both of those in years past, and I'll tell you what this sickle mower does in 20 minutes would take me 2 or 3 hours with a weed whacker or something. So I am really, really glad we bought this. This has been money well spent. And this sickle mower, I think we have like $320 in it. Versus a long arm mower, which is $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and that's probably 5 if you could find a used one that needs everything rebuilt on it, and a new one's like 15 grand. So obviously we're not going to spend that just to do what we want to do. It's cost prohibitive. But this sickle mower seems to do a pretty good job. Granted, you can't mow in behind the trees and stuff, so that'll still have to be done with a weed whacker. But this thing, it beats doing this any other way. I would really like to take down this one tree right where he was last mowing, because it's not really, it's sort of dead, and just get rid of it and then we could mow there. But here we're mowing. You can see just how, obviously you guys don't know what this looked like before, but this is really getting overgrown down here, and having some horsepower and some tractors really makes the job go a lot faster. And obviously, since the loader sticks out so far there, I'm standing on some stairs here with a railing and stuff, so my brother can't get nearly as close as what we would like. And the water on the other side of this is anywhere from 2 to 3 feet deep, so obviously we're not going to drive the tractor out there.
That's it!
But it's amazing how much ground you can cover in such little time with this sickle mower. It has a 6-foot cutting swath, so you can cut 6 feet wide. And apparently back when these were made, I'm not entirely sure, back in the 60s or something, but they made a 6-foot, a 7-foot, and an 8-foot version of them. It would be nice to have the 8-foot version, because you could reach up another couple of feet. So here we're mowing another hillside. This is really where this machine excels, in mowing hillsides and places where you really can't drive the machine, or you'll get stuck, or whatever the case may be. And I'd like to take the brush hog through here, maybe. There's kind of some stumps, and it's super steep in here. The camera just doesn't do it justice how steep some of these hills are. And there is I know I cut down a tree here a couple of years ago, quite a few years ago, and there's a stump still in there. So what's nice with the sickle mower, since there's nothing really spinning on it other than, you know, like the pulley and the drive shaft and stuff. It doesn't throw things like a rotary cutter would, and it just kind of cuts stuff and just glides right over it.
So I've got to say, the 8N with that sickle mower works pretty good. There's still a few little bugs and stuff we have to work out, but he did all this, a little bit in here, and he did the whole way down there to where the Alice is, and he got the 8N stuck pretty bad. Obviously you can't get in behind where the trees and stuff are. That'll have to be done with a weed whacker or something, but here's where he got stuck at. And they look a lot bigger on camera, but there's my foot. So that's probably almost a foot deep right there, maybe. So this edge here is obviously very, very, very... There's a lot of rocks out there, but in here it's all sand. And I'd actually like to take the backhoe and pull all this stuff, taper it down into the bank, and make it look much better than what it does now. So
those of you that watched part 1 of the Poor Man's Long Arm Mower, you'll recognize this. This is the second mowing we're doing this year along the ditch here. And it's nice, you know, obviously you can't drive in there, so how else would you mow it? And I've weed whacked this and push mowed this previously, and it is a horrendous job. It's not fun, and it's just, the sickle mower is so much better to do jobs like this. And I think it's pretty cool watching all these big tufts of weeds fall over. And, you know, granted, the sickle mower doesn't chop stuff up like a rotary cutter would or a long arm mower, but, you know, as long as it's cut and we keep it mowed down, that's good enough for us and good enough for me. I remember, I forget who it was, but they found a manual for this sickle mower online, and I had found like 7 grease zerts, and apparently there is 11 of them. So they had mentioned that there's 2 more where the pivot is for the cutter bar itself to go up and down, and we still have those grease zerts there, so at some point I'll have to grease those. And I don't know where, there's 1 or 2 more somewhere around on this thing that I haven't greased yet, so I'll have to do that at some point. But you can really see here how nice it mows things, and granted it'll leave a couple things left behind or that it doesn't cut, but you could go over that a second time. And I remember we had dug out this ditch with the backhoe. I don't think I got any filming of that. I didn't film it. But I remember the water was so backed up in this ditch, we were actually having little mini lily pads growing in the ditch, which you know, they only grow in lakes, and who knows how long it takes for them to root and grow. And we were actually having them grow in the ditch, which was kind of surprising. But this mower does hillsides like this. You know, we could take the 8N on these hills, but it's nice to mow up them a little bit, and it just kind of keeps things clean and tidy, and it keeps stuff from growing in over the edge. And it just I'm pretty happy with this mower. I don't know what else to say. And if you guys are thinking about buying one, I would say buy it. They're getting a little harder to find, and we went probably a quarter of the way across Pennsylvania just to buy this one. And I'm so glad we have it. So now this hillside here is, the camera just doesn't do it justice for how steep this is, and you could probably roll the tractor on this hill, and obviously we don't want to do that. So that's why we got the sickle mower, mainly to do this hillside here. And of course we always seem to find other uses for it. You know, things that we weren't planning on using it for, we use it for. Now granted, the grass here is not super high, and the sickle mower has no problems going through really even the thick grass or tall, or even this thinner grass and shorter. But this thing just speeds up stuff. So it's so fast to use this thing, you know, in one big felled swoop where, you know, we have a big area, probably 100 feet long and 6 feet wide, that's now mowed, where before we, you know, if I was doing this by hand, it'd be, you know, you're taking either like, I don't know, a 12 or a 15-inch cut with a weed whacker, or a 22-inch cut with a push mower or something. So another thing I would like to add to the sickle bar mower is a winch. I want to put a winch up on the top of the curved piece, and then put the cable down to the end of the cutter bar so we can raise and lower the cutter bar. Obviously you can raise and lower it with the 3-point on the 8N. However, if you notice here, when you go back over the stuff that's already cut, it clogs the mower, and if we can avoid that, that is definitely a good thing, because I think this sickle mower clogged about, I don't know, a dozen, 15, 20 times in the day that we were using this. And obviously we were covering a lot of ground, but if it wouldn't clog, you know, that would be pretty nice. And that's the downside to a sickle bar mower, is the maintenance. You know, so many grease zerks. This, like I said, I think this thing has somewhere around 11 grease zerks on it, and I don't even think the tractor has 11 grease zerks. It probably does. So, you know, in just this machine alone, say there's 22 grease zerks, 2 grease every once in a while, and you know, that's one of the cons of the sickle bar mower, is that it's high maintenance, and then you have the teeth and stuff wear out, and so there's the maintenance aspect of it, and then there's also the clogging. You know, whenever you go over something that is already mowed, that it'll clog. And it would be nice if there was sort of like a conveyor or something on this sickle mower to pull the stuff that's already cut over to one side, where you're not going to be cutting again, and then, you know, it won't clog again. But even this, you know, see, it's just clogging up again anytime that we go over something that we previously mowed. So it's, you know, there's still with this tractor, there's a steep learning curve, and even with the sickle mower, there's still a learning curve to it. You know, just like anything else, any old antique tractor is going to have its little quirks and stuff. Like the 8N, it's harder to turn to the left than it is on the right. If I remember correctly, there's no down pressure on the loader, and there isn't even a cylinder on the bucket, so it is just a pin bucket. So you set the loader down on what you want to, where you want to dump it, and then you pull the lever on the top of the loader, and you raise the loader back up again, and then it'll dump it for you. And then it's just, there's little quirks and stuff you just have to learn about this tractor. Oh, and another thing, the tractor doesn't want to run if the whole thing leans downhill and to the left. So another thing that you have to get used to. And so pretty much you can only mow either to the left a little bit and not downhill, or you can mow to the right any way that you want. And obviously this mower only mows on the right side, so you have to move the whole tractor up onto the top of the hill to, you know, mow this top side. But it's just things you have to get used to, and always, you know, you have to think ahead too when you're mowing. You know, can I mow this now or later, or should I mow it now or later? And oh, it's clogged, and you know, we should probably stop and unclog it. I have noticed if you back up when it's clogged, it seems to unclog itself quite well, which is pretty nice. And so, you know, you don't have to like shut the whole thing off to unclog it. because of the 8N, there's no live PTO and no live hydraulics, so you shut off the PTO to unclog this sickle mower, and the 3-point won't lift or anything. So just more things to get used to. It's, this tractor doesn't have exactly everything that I would want, but it's, oh, and there's no power steering either, and the motor needs rebuilt. So there's definitely some downsides to the 8N, but I'll tell you what, it beats push mowing this or weed whacking it by a long shot. So don't get me wrong, I'm still really glad we have this tractor. It's a great starter tractor, and it's cheap. Everything on it, you can, they made 524,000 of these tractors, and they're, you can go down to Tractor Supply and buy a brand new carburetor for it. A retail store selling something like that, which is it's pretty cool. So now we're actually mowing. We don't own on the other side of this property here, of this road. We're actually mowing it because we don't want to have to pick up the sickle mower, or the bar itself, to come back to make another pass on this right side of the screen here. So we figured, well, we'll mow this also, and it makes it look good, and we're actually accomplishing something on the way there to go to the other side and finish mowing what we want to mow. So again, you just kind of have to think things through and plan ahead, I guess. But it really mows this grass quite well. The sickle mowers, I think, are more meant for mowing things like hay and stuff, or kind of weeds, and I wouldn't say brush. You can't really mow stuff that's anywhere above, like, I'd say 3/4 of an inch, because the belt will slip on this, and that's actually another thing we have to do. We need to tighten up the belt on this thing. But you can see the mower seems to do pretty good. It's kind of neat watching this thing work, and even the neighbors really, they take notice when we're out with one of the tractors. It's kind of funny, because what are we doing now? But the 8N seems to do pretty good, and really makes quick work of doing this. And that's another thing. The tall grass doesn't hurt to mow it with this tractor. If you let the field get too tall, the 8N is not able to mow it. And my brother did mow it the last time. What you're seeing now with it, which I was really surprised it was able to do it, because this engine is pretty wore out, and I don't think this tractor had a ton of power even whenever it was new. A tractor this size should have 30, 40 horsepower, something like that, maybe even 50, and it only has like 20 horsepower or 28 or something. And when you get a bunch of wear and stuff, now the motor is tired, and you really have to rev it to do anything. And in case anyone's wondering, this has there's a piece of wood that actually runs the cutter bar. That's another neat thing about the sickle mower. It uses a piece of wood to connect the left side that's moving over to the cutter bar. And it's called a pitman arm. And I think they say to make it out of poplar wood or pine wood, a softwood. You don't want hickory or an oak, because then the wood is meant to be the part that breaks. If you hit something really hard out on the cutter bar, the piece of wood is meant to be the consumable and not the teeth, which is pretty neat. We did lose the end of the sickle bar mower. There's a piece of wood that I don't exactly know what it's called, but it makes, once it cuts the grass, it kind of pulls it over to one side so that when you make another pass, you can see what's cut and basically what isn't. So yeah, again, it's just it kind of clogs and whatnot. This is where that winch on the top would come in handy, so that we could pick up the cutter bar up out of the stuff that is cut already, and then we can lower it when we want to mow again, you know, the stuff that hasn't been mowed already. But this thing does a pretty good job. It does leave some stuff behind every once in a while when it clogs, but it beats doing it with a weed whacker or a push mower. So let me know down in the comments below if you guys enjoy these voiceovers. I know someone's probably saying, boy, this guy talks a lot. But, you know, I don't know really how else to put these clips together and make them watchable. I mean, I could just have the tractor working, but, you know, there's no... It's nice having someone talking about it and, you know, telling you what it's doing, or, you know, what's working, what isn't working, etc., etc. Just let me know down in the comments what you guys think, and I mean, if you want to see more voiceovers, I mean, I can keep doing this. It's really not a big issue for me. And if you don't want to see more voiceovers, let me know. I don't know what you guys like and what you dislike. I know for me, if I was watching something like this, I definitely want to have a voiceover and have someone narrating it, basically. You know, it just helps make the video better and whatnot. But there's the neighbor driving by, wondering what we're doing, and you can see the 8N lets out a puff of blue smoke every once in a while, and the 8N, it burns a lot of oil. It needs a top end and a bottom end rebuild. But I mean, it still runs and everything, so I mean, there's still some power left in it. But there's a culvert in here that they replaced under the road, and there's a lot of drainage, a lot of water that comes off of this hillside here, off of the main road, this road in front of us, and the road off to the right, which makes for, there was about a 6-foot wide sinkhole in this field here to the left of where my brother's mowing, and you could have, I wouldn't say you could have sunk the tractor, but you'd have definitely gotten the front end in there, and you would have definitely needed a tow or something. So hope everyone enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more, and hopefully we will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.